Hey guys, what's up? I'm Bobby Davis, the founder of Coder Foundry. Also run a consulting company called Cortex. We write software and solutions for people around the country. And today I'm joined with Kevin Doyle, my producer, and we're still in lockdown. So say hello, Kevin.
Hey, everybody. I'm not CEO, founder of Coder Founder or anything fancy like that. I worked at Apple once, if that counts.
Okay. All right.
You have a much better bio than I do. I don't have a cool bio.
Right.
But we are still in lockdown.
It's a good, yeah, we're still in lockdown, and it's kind of like cool and cloudy today, so it's not a great day to be outside. So what better day to be inside?
I like these days. Yes. These days remind me of home. London. These days remind me of home. It definitely remind me of home. So yeah, I like it.
So when it's cloudy and rainy, we can write some code, I guess, since we're not going to go outside. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah. So that's our big plan today, right? We're going to do some coding, which is awesome.
Yeah. So what I'm going to show here is I'm going to show you kind of what we're going to try to build, and I got some disclaimers though. So
okay, hit me. What's your disclaimers?
So like I'm a gadget freak, so I bought a MacBook, and this is my first MacBook, and so now I'm running what you're looking at here is Parallels on the Mac. But if anyone knows this, and I'll be taking comments right now, it's like on Windows, there's just, if you're coding, you're using this thing called the backspace key, which doesn't exist on the Mac. And I feel like
it exists, it's just hidden.
Yeah, function delete. So
yeah,
and then the N key doesn't exist on this MacBook, so it's like function right arrow or function left arrow, and then Control C, Control V, Control Z, Control X exists. It's Command C, V, and X. But the way it's placed, it's just like I feel like I'm programming left-handed, two left hands with my thumbs cut off. I mean, like so like if I fat finger a lot of stuff today, it's because I'm just not used to this keyboard yet. I've only had it for about 3 or 4 days. So like
you've done it for so long on muscle memory. It is one of those things. My muscle memory is definitely Command C, Command V. If I pick up a Windows machine, which I had one for a minute and I got rid of it. I had a hard time doing that. Even just the simple things, the simple things.
So I'm working on it, and so like and what I'm going to show you what I built. I think I built this in total maybe 4 or 5 hours, maybe 6 hours, maybe.
Okay.
I didn't really sit, like we've been working on it all week, but like the reason we canceled yesterday is because then we got like sidetracked. I didn't work on it, so I worked on a little bit this morning, and I actually made some changes about 10 minutes ago. So like it's pretty fresh.
We got sidetracked doing a bunch of student stuff, right? We were doing a bunch of Coder Foundry stuff. So
right. And we're launching a new mobile project. So like I've been kind of working on that, working on the wireframes and stuff, like looking at that. So a lot of stuff to do. All right, let's get some questions out of the way. Then we'll show what we're going to build, and then we'll talk about the challenge of this with people.
Yeah, definitely. Let's look here real quick.
See Zulu right here wanting to.
We do. 1 second though, Joshua. Thanks for the comment here. It's gonna be a good day. Live coding and donuts. I don't have any donuts.
You have donuts, Joshua? I wish I had.
Apparently, Joshua does, but I don't.
There's a place in Kernersville. You can look this up if you want to know kind of where we are. Granny's Donuts.
I've not been to Granny's. I've been to In Town Donuts.
In Town's pretty good. Granny's is better. Okay. But we also, Winston-Salem, 20 minutes out of here, is like the home capital of Krispy Kreme. So true story. I was a consultant at Krispy Kreme at one point.
Really?
And
that's got to be a good gig, surely.
Yeah, it was pretty good for about 3 days. But like basically they had these like stores that you could go to every day and get free donuts because they would test out like the ordering. People were practicing like running stores. So like the first day I get like a dozen donuts, I'm pushing them down. So this is when I'm in my 20s, and you can't just eat one Krispy Kreme glaze. They're really hard to eat.
This is my wife's problem with Krispy Kreme. She doesn't like Krispy Kreme because you can't eat one.
You can't eat one. You gotta eat 12. So like, but after
that's a problem.
4 days of that, you're like wanting to throw up. So like, it was cool though. So Krispy Kreme it's a cool joint. I like Krispy Kreme.
It is definitely. Here's Zulu's question. Before we begin, I want to ask a question, which we're going to cover this. So this is awesome. In case I want to build an app, which I don't know where to start, what should I do first? So you're going to do this today. You're going to show us like where to start. we're gonna treat this sort of demo as very high level, right? I'm gonna ask the stupid questions. I'm gonna be the I guess the idiot here and be like, I don't understand that part, because I probably don't on a lot of this stuff. And I'm gonna ask the questions that you might intuitively just think like, oh, okay, you just do this. I'm gonna be like, well, why did you do that?
It's just an array of objects. That's all.
Exactly. I'll be like, hold on, whoa, what now? Of what? So I'm gonna do that. And if you guys want to ask questions too, as we go along, like stick them in the chat, and I'll make sure that we slow roll this thing.
Yeah. So David's got a delete tip for me. I can't read it from here.
Oh, here we go. Tip from David. Delete or delete the characters. Yes, that's it. That's exactly it. But on a PC, it's a whole separate key.
There's no backspace key.
Yeah.
So
that's funny.
It's
just like a learning curve.
Yeah. So I had a Surface Book, and so like I tried to hook my Surface Book keyboard up to the Mac, and it won't type. I mean, it'll like connect through Bluetooth, but it doesn't type. So you got to figure out what that deal is. Yep,
definitely. Adam likes grannies donuts, which is not too far from the office, is it? So that's why
apple fritter is really good.
That's funny. A friend Alex Lee wanted to ask stupid questions. Sorry, Alex. You can still if you want.
You can, man. You can.
But I'll probably have already asked it.
Maybe we'll bring Tech Rally on to do live coding. It's really hard to do, actually. So like I'm a bit nervous because I've never said that coding is a spectator. People want to watch, so we're going to do it.
We're all watching you make every keystroke mistake you possibly can. But that's good. No, that's good. This on this
keyboard like this.
That's awesome. So, what's the challenge? What are we going to do?
Let's let me get this over here. Let me show you what we're going to build. So let me share my screen here. So what we're going to build is, this is really a coding challenge. And what this comes from, what I'm working on is inside of Coder Foundry, we build coding challenges, especially in like the second week of our 12-week class. And there's typically 5 of them, and they put them on their portfolios. So one of those coding challenges is Fizz Buzz. We have another one that I named called the Sum of All Fears. And then there's one called Sunset Hills. I'm adding a new one. It's called Super Dog Events. And the purpose of this is replacing an older challenge. So this won't come out until the July cohort. So if you're watching this and you're coming in July, you're getting a preview of the things you're going to build. And so inside of Coder Foundry, we look at portfolios as a sales tool. And those sales tools need to have full functional projects on it, but also coding challenges. A lot of times they're put on websites, but we want to take a coding challenge to the next level, which means that if you want to solve a coding challenge like Fizz Buzz, it should have a pretty cool UI on it. It should have some interactivity piece for a potential employee or someone looking at your portfolio to kind of mess around with a little bit. And then it should detail what the problem is and show your code. What we're going to do in July, starting in July, is your blog that they build, they'll actually write blog items about all 5 coding challenges, and then they detail the kind of things that they learned. So in this coding challenge is one that comes a lot from JavaScript questions. You might get code trivia. Is like, how do you find, given an array, the max value in an array or the min value in an array? Or can you sum up all the items in an array? Or can you find the average of all items in an array? You'll see those questions a lot in standard interviews. And so this coding challenge is to show how you would do that, but take it up a level and make it interesting. So
this is your solution to that.
Yeah, you could put 5 input boxes on a white page and allow them type 5 numbers in, and you click solve and it shows you the min, max, average, and total, stuff like that, or maybe factorial or something like that. Right. And it's like, whoop-de-doo. No one is impressed with that. But the moment you put this cute little dog on here, even though he doesn't have a mask,
I didn't get a chance to put a mask on it yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. And then you actually put in some data and then make it a real world example. But then you also solve the challenge well, it's a much better thing that you can put on your portfolio. And so that is the challenge behind this. So what I want everyone to do today is we're going to code along, show you the code here, and try to build this. And I'm going to demonstrate kind of what it works here in a second. But if you're already coding, I challenge you to, hey, maybe you just build this. You don't really need me to tell you how to build it. You know, like
let's set the challenge today. That's the question. So what can you do with it? Like, what's the extra thing that you can add to it? Like, you did this thing what we're going to talk about, but can somebody else come up with something else? We want to see like your guys' solutions to this. Yeah.
And then I do have like some things that we'll talk about. Like, this is going to be a jumping off point. And I'm going to say, this is kind of where I think you should take this. And like I said, I literally built this in like 4 or 5 hours. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that there's not a whole lot of time in this so far yet today. It kind of looks cool. I like the way it looks. What do you think?
I like it.
Okay. That's kind of
cool.
cool.
So why don't you talk us through it? What does it actually do? What is your solution to this?
Yeah. I'm assuming they're a marketing company and they make Comic Cons, and they create Comic Cons across the country. Okay. So, you know, we've talked about, like, on my bucket list is to go to San Diego Comic Con. I think that would be kind of cool. Yep. So like, this is kind of where it came from. But if you do Comic Cons and you're running events and you're trying to make money, you may want to know some stats about the event itself. Okay. So I've got here a little drop down where we can pick the location or the city of the event. And there may be one, and I'll show you the data here in a second. So if I pick New York, you can see here I've got the total attendance of all the New York events over time. 747,000 people have went to Comic-Con in New York. The average attendance is about 250 per event, and then the most attended one was 257, and the least attended was 247. So that is coming from, if I scroll up here, this kind of data that I've put together in here, which I have some dates, I have attendance, I have the state, the city that they're in, and then there's event names. The actual Comic-Con in Charlotte, North Carolina is called Heroes Con. So it's not as well attended.
I've never even heard of it. So that's how not well attended it is.
So these are roughly the right numbers that are between. Actually, more people go to New York than San Diego, even though San Diego is thought of as the premier event.
Really?
It's part of the location, yeah. So like about 160 average in San Diego and over 250,000 in New York.
Wow, maybe we should just go to New York instead of San Diego.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So your answer to this is you have a bunch of these events that have an attendance listed to them. And for each of those events, you're saying you've done a total, an average, the most attended and least attended, so min and max, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So any questions about like what we're building out there, Kevin? Anybody? John B has a question. So. I'm going to ask that. That's a good question.
Oh, here we go. Yeah. Yep.
He says, is this pulling live data? No, I made this up. I made the data up. So, but I couldn't find any live API data, John. So one of the things that you could do is
that would be cool.
Yeah. Maybe change the, it's not SuperDog events. It's SuperDog something else. And you're pulling in live data, and that would be cool using an API or something like that.
Exactly. That's another thing to show is because the idea is that you can use this on your portfolio, right? So that's another thing to talk about to an employer is like, oh yeah, and I pulled in live data from this API that, I don't know, maybe it's the distance from stars or something, or whatever you decide to do with whatever data it is, and you pull it in from a live API. That's a cool idea.
Right. So if you're out there and you're don't know how to do live API data, we actually have a weather tutorial that hits the dark sky API in JavaScript, and you can see how we're pulling in data from dark sky.
Oh, there you go. That would be a cool API to actually pull into this too. Like you take your location and maybe show the average temperature over the last week. That's a good idea for somebody to do. That's a good idea to solve this.
So yeah, we actually have that fully fleshed out on the YouTube channel. So maybe you put a link to the weather API tutorial that we have put out there. All right.
Yeah. Let me go with that. No, but Dracula says I have great taste, which is a great name, by the way. And I love the little card there. It's based on a store. Heroes are hard to find. I didn't know that.
Okay.
So that's cool. There you go. Learn something new.
Show? I mean, I've never been to it. I'm wondering if that's probably pretty good. I just know that with San Diego, you have Hall H and like You know,
you want
that's
to go see
where
the big guys.
Disney and Marvel and all those guys are making announcements about stuff. So it's practically impossible to get into those events. But where Heroes Con may be more like a small town comic event, you know, a little cosplay, stuff like that. I know the cosplay in San Diego is epic. So
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Not that I would ever wear a costume. I mean, but I would like to go see them.
Yeah.
Kind of cool. All right.
Yep.
All right, cool. All right, so what we're going to do here is I'm just going to show you one more time. So if I hit to Charlotte, we can look at these data. And then I can look at New York, and you can see they're changing here. And I just put the data down here. So I printed out the data so you could see kind of where the data is coming from. You know, one of the things you could do here too is that I may add over the next couple of days as we work on this is an add feature. And I didn't quite get that done yet. And then the add feature would just show you how to like push items into an array, which is another thing that people ask all the time. Like, so how do you add items to an array? How do you remove them, push and pop and stuff like that? Okay. So that's another feature that you could add.
That actually brings up a good point too. We're not going to get this finished today. This is going to be a multi-day
it might be.
thing here.
I mean, we'll get into it here in a second. And then I'm going to do the Bootstrap first. So like what this is built with is pure HTML and Bootstrap, and it's real. And so I didn't do anything other than that. There's no Vue, there's no React, nothing like that at all. All native JavaScript, just no jQuery, anything like that, and that's it. So what I would say though is because I'm doing that, if you did do an add right here and you added rows in here, I don't have a database or any kind of backend store. So that's another thing that we could potentially add, where you could save new events to a database, or you could save them to like maybe a file and read them off disk. It'd be another thing.
This is just a static list, right?
It's just a static list. So just to show you kind of how min and max could potentially work, one way to do it.
Okay.
Okay. So let me show you kind of the setup of the project here. And we'll just, what time is it? You got any questions real quick and we'll start coding?
It is 12:20.
Okay, so we're good.
I've got a question. So what IDE are you using?
So what I'm going to show you is this is VS Code. And it's going to be a little hard to type on because I'm running this at 25-point font. So like it's going to really fill up the page so everybody can see. If you're over here, you'll notice that I've got a folder. So if you've used VS Code before, or any kind of project ID or whatever, your code is stored in a folder. And I created a folder called Superdog. It's actually called a workspace in VS Code. And I have like 3 folders under here, CSS, images, and this is called JS, where I'm going to store my JavaScript.
Is this one of the first things you do then when doing this? You set up a folder structure?
First thing I do.
Okay. Even if there's nothing in them, you just set up the bones of how you want it to be structured.
Yeah. And that way, when I'm coding between projects, everything's kind of in the same place. So like Visual Studio, like if you like run a project template out of Visual Studio, it'll create folders for you. And so, but in general, I just keep folders.
Okay.
So I've got a style sheet in here, and I've already got some stuff in here. I'll show you that. And I've got a blank index HTML, which is the file that houses this. And then I've got a blank JavaScript file. And so fold it up.
I have another question too then. What plugins are you using?
Right now I'm using the main plugin we're going to use today is called Live Server. So like Live Server allows us to run this. And let me show you that. That's a good question. Let me show you something real quick. So this is my artwork in here, and I've got, you can't really see it here, but it's just the Superdog event. I might use that as just a logo somewhere at the top or something.
Okay.
But this is just my my dog.
And that's a transparent PNG, I'm guessing.
Transparent PNG.
Okay.
Okay. So this is kind of the overview, the setup of the project. It's real easy to do. The other thing too is that I'll probably do is pull this back into Camtasia, and then I'll probably do a whole tutorial that'll be 1.5 hours long on this. But today we're just going to do it live. And then eventually, it's not in GitHub yet, but it'll be in GitHub in the next coming weeks when I finish it.
Cool.
So typically I don't push to GitHub until I'm done. for stuff that's public facing for Codefriend. I want to make sure that everything's working. So it's a little bit of a work in progress, but it's pretty cool. All right.
John's actually have a question here. John says the dog logo is PNG, not SVG.
Yeah, right now it's PNG. I get it, man. I'm not like, I'm just to be honest. I haven't used
this. Is not a production. Plus, this is not like a production app, right? I guess if at some point you did need to take into consideration speed and those kind of things, you might make a different choice. But
right. Yeah. And I haven't used SVGs much. I've tried to use them, and so I probably need to do some more homework on my end to start like learning how to. So I made this in Photoshop. So like, then I got to like convert that and figure all that out. So like,
you can make a pretty small transparent PNG. I know it's not the same as an SVG, but
yeah, I'm on this. This is like 40K or something. It's not big.
Okay. Yep.
It's not big at all.
Plus, again, it's not like we're going to get 1 million hits on this thing and you're going to kill all your bandwidth.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how live server works. So if you look really close down here, when you set up live server, this is a port number, and that may be hard to read, but that says 5500. And so like when you're wanting your debugger set up, you can click the debug here, and then I can launch this, but also can let me show you one thing that may that may confuse a lot of people is like, how do you set up Chrome debugging right in here? So what it does is it creates this launch file, or this launch against Chrome localhost right there. And then you just have to plug in the URL that live server is going to give you. It comes with one default, but like live server is going to do something different. So I've actually changed this so it matches the port that I'm using that live server is using. So when you run this, it'll launch Chrome. And then right now it's just a blank site, but you can see right here I'm running against 2127.
Okay.
So I don't have an HTML page. I don't have anything yet, so it's all blank.
And this makes it so this live server thing makes it so that you don't have to go into the folder structure and open the thing up in Chrome on its own. Does it refresh it too?
And it'll refresh live reload as you're coding, and then so you can set debug points too right here in Visual Studio in VS Code.
Awesome.
So you can debug your JavaScript. So that's kind of that.
That's called live server.
Live server is an extension in there. Okay. All right, cool. So let's get going here. So what I'm going to do first off is I've also got to plug in what's Bootstrap Extension. And so I'm going to create, let's put a little, click in there. Let's make a page here. So I can type in $4. And this is just a helper method that allows me to like get out a quick Bootstrap file.
Okay, that put a lot in.
Okay. So it gives me the jQuery that Bootstrap is using and the JavaScript that it needs, and it's doing it through CDNs, which is kind of cool. It also added in the style sheets for Bootstrap, and then it created an empty kind of empty body for me.
Okay, so there's still at this point no content on the page, right? This is all
not yet. It's going to make a title now, so we can call this Super Dog Events. Change the title of the page, and then we're going to say a coding challenge. Command S to save, not Control S. So what I can do is I can refresh my browser over here, and then you can see now it says Super Dog Events.
Okay, so David has a question here, and I think this is what you're doing. It says, David says, why don't you use the live server add-on for VS Code? Wouldn't it be easier? That's what you are using, right? Yeah, that is what we're using.
Right now, right at the bottom, this is showing it's in the debug mode, and then it's running live server. So I launched it as live server. I was just showing you in the config file how to make sure that it's set up. One of the things confusing is you can install it, and then if you don't change the config, it won't launch correctly. It won't look right. So it's working. I'm running in live server right now.
Cool.
And you can see it. It's running in port, whatever. All right, cool. All right, so like so that's pretty easy to do. So let's do some other stuff here. And
so what's your thinking next then? What's your logic for a start point? Where do you start? Is it graphically? Is it some logic behind it, or what's your?
Yeah, I build the front end so I can like know how it's going to look. So
Okay.
that's just me. Typically, I don't have this on the thing, but I'm going to show this. This is kind of bad. It started out like this. So like I drew it out on a
So you'll sketch it out first. Okay.
Yeah. And then that allowed me to figure out like kind of what I want to do.
Do you generally, I mean, maybe not for this, but do you generally use wireframes too then? Would you build out a wireframe for this, like a mock?
Yeah, I may use Balsamic, but for something like this, I just drew it out on a piece of paper, but I may use Balsamic as a wireframe.
Okay.
So, and then I've been introduced in the last couple of weeks when we're working on this mobile project to some other wireframe projects like Adobe XD that I'm going to probably invest in. I've got a UX guy that's working on our mobile piece and he's using some software I haven't used before. So I'm going to try it out. So
awesome.
But it's actually more like prototyping than wireframing. So
yeah, because it has functionality, right?
Well, it just looks more complete. It's not like a wireframe.
Can you click through though on some of those things? I've seen some of those where it builds a mock-up of this thing.
Flow and that kind of stuff. But it's more like, if you think about it, it's like if you have 50 PNGs and you just like link them together and you
I see. Okay.
Like that.
Right. Okay.
All right, cool.
So MSV is asking, are you using Emmet or any other add-ons?
Yeah, Emmet's by default in VS Code. And that Bootstrap 4 thing magic I did is an Emmet thing.
That's an Emmet thing? Okay. Yeah, those shortcuts. Do you just remember those then? You just get to know which those are? Okay.
Yeah, I just remember. So that's kind of the point. So what we can do is we can go ahead and start laying it out. So the first thing that we probably should do is I'm going to add in our style sheet here. So that's the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add in the style sheet.
Okay.
And so that's a link statement. This is one of my problems with HTML. It's like there's like different things that do the same thing, but they have different syntax. But like you just remember them.
Right.
So and so now with VS Code, you can see now it's already prompting me that it knows this is an href. And so it's also reading my folder structure here. So I pick CSS and style CSS. Okay, so that's kind of cool.
So Mark was asking here, could you share a bit more about the $4 bar? And that's just what we were talking about with the Emmet shortcut, right?
Yeah, so like, let me show you that again. So I'm going to do, let me just, I can say file new file right here. And I'm just going to create a new HTML file here. Let me rename this thing. But I'll just do it right here. So $. And so what it's going to do is, because I have the extension for Bootstrap 4 in here, it gives me these shortcuts. And that $follower is just going to create this code in here automatically.
So it just gives you the whole thing. It gives you the whole template, right?
It just increases your speed.
Yeah, you could type all this stuff out, right? You could just manually type all this out, but it's like this does it all for you.
Then you'd go have to look up these CDNs and the stack path and all that stuff.
Yep.
You'd have to figure all this stuff out.
He said Emma. Okay.
So I've added a style sheet. So let's go over here and look at my style sheet. And this is another thing in VS Code. I went to a place and I found a background that I like. And let me just show you kind of what my go-to is. I'm just going to show you the secrets, because a lot of times when people do this for online, you think they have this all memorized and they don't.
So
maybe they do. I don't. I'm just not as but like
I don't think most people do. Not with these gradient things too. You're gonna go find one that you like somewhere, right? And you're gonna pull that in.
I'm gonna pull this off, and maybe this will like if you feel better about me or whatever. But like,
so what website is this?
It's called uigradients.com.
Okay.
And I went over here to gray, and I knew I wanted a gray, and I picked this thing called, I think it was called Portrait. Doesn't really matter. Let's say it was Portrait. And then what I can do is I also can rotate this.
Oh, that's cool.
The way that I want it. And then I can just here get the CSS, and then I grab the CSS code out of there. Click the copy.
So when
body tag.
Okay, so where did you put that in your file then? Where was that?
Yeah. So let's get rid of that. And then right here, I've got my background in here. And
so it's that whole section right there. That's what you copied and pasted
right
over. Okay.
Yeah. So it's just it's a gradient, and you can go ahead and modify these if you want, but to bottom means the direction it's going to flow. And then the color, the starting color and the ending color. You actually can do 4 color gradients. You can do a lot of things inside of here. And then if these don't work in your browser, it's going to fall back to this solid color for old browsers. Like if you're still running,
IE6.
Yeah. Now, here's the one thing that people may not know, and I'll be curious to see if you knew this. When you're using a gradient background, if you don't do what I did here, it will cut off at the bottom of the viewport. And sometimes you want that to happen, and sometimes you don't. Okay. In the case of this one, I did not want that to happen. I wanted, as long as I scrolled, I wanted my gradient to kind of show. So what you do is you say, I don't want to repeat the background, and then you put the attachment fixed in this order.
What does the attachment fixed do?
It just makes it like stay. And no matter what you're at, it's going to like stay on that gradient. So and you can read about it right here. Specifies where the background images are fixed with regard to the viewport, or scroll along with the element. And
I see. So if it wasn't fixed and you scrolled the page, the gradient would scroll. If it was like top to bottom, you'd see the. Okay, I got you.
And then there's white under.
Yep.
So we're gonna save this. Okay.
So I'm guessing so far we've got a title and we've got a background gradient, right? That's
if I did it right.
Yeah. Let's see.
So now I got a gradient. And no matter what I do, it's just going to fill up the whole page. And that's what I wanted.
Yep.
But sometimes you got like these different sections that you want. And so you want it to scroll up with the different sections, because you may have like 4 or 5 gradients on a background or something like that. Or you want it to scroll away. In this case, I did. So, okay, cool. That's easy. I know we're going super slow. So if you're coding, just realize that there's a lot of people here who have never seen this before. So I'm going a little bit slow.
It's not super slow for me.
Okay. All right, cool. All right. So now I've got my style sheet. The next thing I need to do is I'm going to also go ahead and add in my SuperDog.js, and I need to link that. And so I'm going to link that down here. And this is a script tag. So, the reason you put script tags at the bottom for most cases is that a lot of times your JS is manipulating the DOM. And if you have like something on an onload event and the script tag is declared ahead of the HTML, which you could do, it would try to hit DOM elements that aren't rendered yet. So typically,
just explain to me manipulating the DOM.
So like I want to like add, like I want to change, I want to add I want to write the total attendance to the page.
Okay.
So like, but if the script says it's referencing a DOM element, like a TD tag somewhere that's not been written yet,
Oh, I see. So if the script's at the top, it's trying to look for something that hasn't rendered yet. It hasn't rendered. Okay, I got you. Okay.
So like you put it at the bottom so it can be rendered.
Okay.
All right. So then the page reference source. How late am I?
Just how late am I? Well, 34 minutes. You can go back and watch it once we're done. But I think that's funny.
So you can go back.
But welcome, Jerry.
It's never late. It's forever. So like I'm going to go ahead and add in my JS, and then I'm going to pick my SuperDog, and then I'm going to add that in there. Right now, this script doesn't do anything, but a lot of times people forget to add this in, and they're writing JavaScript all day long, and they're like, "Hey, it's not working," and then you got to add in your script tag.
Is that something you generally do too then? Add that in first before you've created the file, or have you created the file already?
I'm setting all this up beforehand. I know I'm going to have a style CS. I know I'm going to have some kind of JavaScript file.
Okay.
I know some images, and then I'm going to have an index page here. And this would be a good thing for like what I call a mini site, or like a coding challenge kind of like layout for stuff. Again, you can do this however you want. You can lay it out however you want. You can put everything in one folder. I typically have folders for each type. It's all kind of like,
this is something I've noticed. There's no standard for this stuff, is there? There's no governing body standard, at least. There's sort of best practices around some of this stuff, but there's no there's no documented standard for this.
Exactly.
Which is interesting.
And I think that's good, because like, you don't want to, because this is a creative endeavor, and so like a lot of times you do things for reasons, and then the reasons could be bad. You can make bad decisions, but like I like having the flexibility of making my own decisions. So I think that's kind of cool.
Yep.
So I think we're all set up here. So we got our JavaScript, we got our style sheet, and so we're ready to roll out. So if you looked at my wireframe,
like hold on, let's see that fine piece of artwork again.
I got to find it now. If you look at it, I did this last. Remember, we called last night like at 9:30. I was working on it last night, so like I just sketched this out. So this means that I'm going to have like two rows and 2 columns. So in general, layout and Bootstrap and Flexbox and all those other things work in rows and columns, and you need to think of that. Like so
one row. So on your final solution, then do you have that handy? If you pull that up,
and I can get it handy.
I was just wondering, like, so what is on that solution? What is a row and what are the columns? Just so I can see like what you're talking. I think I understand the row at the top part is the image and your first table, and then the second row is the other table at the bottom. Is that right?
Yeah. Let me just launch this real quick from the other thing.
Sorry, I thought you still had it open.
Yeah, I did too.
And while you're doing that, here you go. David has a tip for us. You can use gradient colors. You can use a linear gradient, just like anything. There's a million ways to do this thing.
Yeah.
So he has an example here too. Look, you can use a background image, linear gradient as a similar thing, and I guess you get a similar.
Yeah. So that I've done that, David. But when you get into like vars and stuff, like some people, it's just like it takes longer to like explain what that's. But that's cool though.
Yeah, there's just a lot of ways to do these things.
Yeah.
While you're pulling that up, Adam said, "Don't play down or downplay the notebook drawing." It's where all my projects start. I think it's where a lot of people start. And I missed your calling as an artist, Mark says.
Yeah.
Natasha missed her calling as an artist. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Let me pull this over here now.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, like, what when you say you sketched it out, and then what on your final like thing, what is a column, what is a row that you're gonna use here?
Yeah.
Maybe if in the future we'll like, that's okay. Maybe we'll snap a picture of it for next time, so you can just pull up a picture of it instead of having to actually run it.
It's parallels. All right, hold on a second. All right. Here we go.
Okay.
So basically what you can think about this is this right here, the pick location is going to be in a column, and then this thing is going to be in a column.
And that's one row. Okay.
And
yep.
And then this dividing, if you look this imaginary dividing line, this is another row, but it only has one column in it.
Okay. Okay. So it's one column and not 5 columns. That's just from a display. I mean, that would be like, because it looks like it's 5 columns, but that's 5 columns within a single column, right?
Yeah. So I'm using a table in here to divide this data. And then I'm using a table here to divide this up. But for my layout, I basically have this is divided in half, and then this is then the page is divided in half, and I have a row below, a row above, and the row above has 2 columns in it.
Okay.
All right. So we can do that real quick. I think that's pretty easy.
Yep.
So the way this works inside of Bootstrap is we use div tags, and then divs have a thing called containers, and there's a container class I put on here. The one I like to use is container fluid. A lot of people like container. Container fluid will use all available real estate. Container will put it in a take up the center of the page basically.
Okay, and this is a Bootstrap class, right?
It's a Bootstrap thing.
Okay.
And again, you can and so I have this container around all of my content. So this is kind of like a parent container around everything.
Okay.
And then what I do is, because I like fluid, and then you guys out there, UIs, you may think I'm crazy, and I may be wrong about this, and that's okay. It's live code.
Go for it.
I'll put another container in here. And the reason I do, and I could probably override this in Bootstrap or add another class here, and I totally get that. But it just makes it simpler. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put a margin and padding around this, because I don't like the container from Bootstrap because it has too much margin. It's like it only takes up like the center of the page. So I want like a 20 pixel kind of surround the whole thing, so it has a little room to breathe, but it uses most of the real estate. And that's
so you're okay. So you're creating the other container in the div in the fluid container, so you can add padding to it.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
I could override this, but I don't want to override Bootstrap.
Okay.
So I just want to I want to have the styles that I'm using inside of my CS that I'm going to use. And so there could be other reasons that we do this. So like if you go over here to my style sheet, and this is another cool thing. Like if you're not familiar with CSS, you just put over here, this dot and the name tells you how that element is going to be used. So you can see, like, if you have an element with the class name dot container, it's going to add a padding of 20 pixels.
Okay.
Pretty simple.
Yep.
That's my whole style sheet for this whole project. So
wow,
that's
really, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Everything else is Bootstrap.
Everything else is from Bootstrap.
Wow.
Okay, so now that I've got that set up, now I can put another div in here, and I can say class equals row. And so this is going to make a row. Then inside my row, I'm going to go ahead and set up a couple of columns. Okay.
Okay.
And so, and then what you can do is inside of Bootstrap, you can specify the width, and columns in Bootstrap are divided up into 12 columns, makes up the entire width of the page. So that's the unit of measure that you have to use.
And that's just something right? That's just something that is just a common Bootstrap thing.
Makes up everything. So you can say column 6. And I'm going to make up half of it.
We could do a whole thing just on Bootstrap and Bootstrap layout. We totally could.
Out that makes this a little bit easier to do, but like I'm just showing you.
Just a quick question too. Jerry was asking, when we're finished, we leave the completed code available in the description. No, we won't, but we'll put it on Git. Yeah.
It'll be in GitHub. It just won't be today. Just give me a second to get it out. You know, so hopefully I'm going slow enough where you can do it. So now if you can look at this, you can see now I have a row and 2 columns. Now divs don't have any visual display. So if I ran it right now, nothing's changed. But what I could do is, just to show you, I could just type in something in here.
Yeah, let's see what we have on the screen.
Save that, and then we could just run this dude. And if it's not already running, I've got so much. Running this here, and you can see what it did.
Okay, so we have our one row, which is both of those things, and then 2 columns.
They're left aligned. So like the other column is going to start right here. And you can see that by just adding in something like border or something like that. If you were curious, I think it's border. And then I think it's border here, and another class.
Is that a Bootstrap class too?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that one. Okay.
Unless I'm wrong. I could be wrong. You can see it.
That's okay.
I think I got it. It's hard to see. But like if you look close, there's a white in here. Let me see if I can Control plus here. Or is it Control plus?
Be Command plus, probably. Oh, I see it. Okay, there you go.
It's got a border around it now.
Yep.
So that's the column. That's where it's going to take up its space.
Okay.
All right. So
here's a question for us. Ad849822, thank you for the question, says, how are you getting Intellisense for Bootstrap classes?
Okay, that's my plugin, the Bootstrap extension.
That's an Emmet Bootstrap extension, right?
Yeah. So like it's just part of the you just install it in here.
Do you remember what it was called? Is it just a
Bootstrap 4?
Okay.
So
if you search the extensions for Bootstrap 4, that comes up.
Yeah. For some reason they're not coming up right now, but like that's why I don't want to bring it up. But you just
okay.
Bootstrap. I'm not sure if that's down or if it's because I'm on a VM and we're running a stream at the same time.
Oh, could be.
Normally they're very fast. So so that's how I'm getting it through the extension. So that's it. All right. So I'm going to take this border out because that's kind of ugly.
Yep.
And notice that your class names are in quotes if you haven't done this before. All right. So what we can do is to continue on, we need to get our base structure out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a row below this div tag. And this is when you're learning, you got to know like how your divs are organized. And if you look close inside of Visual Studio, or Visual Code, it's showing you what's connected. And so these things are really stacking. And so I'm going to make another row here. Okay, and that's kind of what I'm doing there. And let me just get rid of this. And then I'm going to make just one kind of column in here that kind of controls it all. And that's going to be a column 12. Okay. You can see it's giving me all the Intellisense. It's kind of cool. Real great point here. I'm not worried about breakpoints at this point, but these are breakpoints, Kevin, when as your browser goes smaller or bigger, depending on the resolution that you're looking at your monitor, it tells you when things will stack.
Okay, so this is what makes it responsive, right?
Yeah, it's responsive out of the box with just using column 12, but there may be cases where because of the way it's laid out, you need to expressly like keep it from stacking or want it to stack at a certain resolution.
Okay, I got you.
Because it's really simple. You know, there's really nothing in there.
Yep.
Okay. So that's kind of it. So like that's kind of what we're doing there. So like the next thing we can do is like this is my base kind of template layout.
Okay. So that's pretty much your UI stuff without having the actual data in it.
Yeah, that's the scaffold. That's my scaffold. That's that drawing I showed you.
Okay. And what do we get? And when we run this, when we look at this,
you'll see nothing
in live. So we don't see anything because there's nothing in there yet, right?
Nothing in there. So like you know, it's this.
Okay. So how do you? So what's your process?
I want to add a logo. Let's add the logo in.
Let's add the logo. Yeah. Is this how you typically do this too? You'd scaffold it this way with nothing in it.
I do. That's what I do. A lot of people like work from top down. But what I do is, and then they manage the closing div tags and how everything's arranged. But what I do is I typically put the scaffold together, and then I go back and add in my content so that I don't have to like go searching for which closing div tag did I forget to type.
Okay. Check this comment. You're gonna like this. This is a great point. Yeah. Betty here says, this is great. I now realize I do have some knowledge. Still feel like a fraud, though. My brain is trying to convince me every day that I'm not getting it. It's imposter syndrome is real, right? We see it every day. Every day.
I would realize you probably do have knowledge and you have more than most. If you understand what I'm talking about, you're probably in the top 10% of people on the planet Earth. I mean, I show this to people in my family, and it looks like a different like language to them. They don't can't even comprehend like what I'm doing. They don't even understand like how, HTML is really a document that you write.
Right.
It's like magic. It's so.
Yep. And just remember, you never know everything. So
you never know everything, but you can know enough to build. And I'll be the first one to say I don't know everything. I will say that I'm committed to my craft and I know about a lot of things, and then I Google things when I don't have the actual solution to my like short-term memory, which is what a lot of coders do. We Google all day long. So I think that I don't, just because you're not as smart as the person down the street doesn't mean you shouldn't learn to code, and it doesn't make you a fraud.
Yep,
it just
100%.
means a more limited set of knowledge.
I love that. Little cool sunglasses. That's awesome.
I like it.
Tim P has a question too. The top row, you stated column 6, but you only needed 2 columns. Is there a reason?
Yeah, 6 plus 6 is 12, and the whole length of the row in anything in Bootstrap is 12.
So if you wanted 3 columns, it'd be column 4, right? Column 4, column 4, column 4, and you can do variations too, right?
So you'd have 6, and it gets more complex than that. I'm being very simplified here, and I'm sure some people are talking that use Bootstrap are rolling their eyes right now, but like it can get very complex. You can have mixtures, you know, those kind of things.
Yeah, we're definitely trying to keep this simplified. We're trying to keep it simple in terms of the parts that we do use. We're not trying to use too many shortcuts and things like that too. We want to type as much out as we can. You can figure out the quick ways to do things later. We could show you this in an hour, but that's not going to really gain you.
I just want you guys to learn something. So like, so then I'm just going to add an image tag. So like image tag is an HTML tag, and it's going to be a source, and that tells us where our image is located. Again, it's giving my file structure here, and then I've got this logo here, which is the full dog logo. I just know what it's called. Okay. And I'm going to do something else that's kind of cool too. I'm actually going to put some classes on this, right? Actually, I'll do it this way first, and then I'll show you the problem. All right. And then I'll show you how Bootstrap solves it. So I think I killed the browser, but I'll launch it again. So let's get it to come up. Let's go live again. And I'm going to show you how Bootstrap solves a particular problem that I think is pretty cool. All right, so we got this super dog event.
Yay.
Right? But like if I scale this down, see what's happening?
Oh, yeah.
He's staying the same size regardless of how small the browser is.
Okay, so the image isn't responsive at the moment.
At all.
Okay.
Look, see?
Okay,
that's a problem.
Yeah, that looks better. You want it to shrink down into that size of that
monitor. You know, it looks awesome. You know, like, hey, that's some great design work you did there, Bobby. Yeah.
But on a phone, it would look bad, right?
It would look bad. So like, so we can fix that real quick with Bootstrap. Really easy. And I'm going to show you how this works. I'll bring this to the side here. And then, so I'm going to go back over here, and then I add some classes to this image tag. And this is built into Bootstrap. So what I'll do is I'm going to add a class, and it's called image fluid. It's giving it to me. And then I'm also going to add a little bit of spacing around it. It's called P2, which is a padding around the image. I think all images should have some padding. Again, that's just a personal choice that I did. So I'm going to save that. And now I'm going to bring this back over here, and I'm going to show you what happens. It's neat. So now, like if we're in maximize mode here, it looks the same. But if I scroll it, see what it does.
Oh, cool. Cool. That makes it work on a phone.
Yeah, exactly. And there's limitations to this, but for the most part, that works pretty good. And you can do that without Bootstrap, obviously. But so let's go through a couple of other things, some Bootstrap controls here that we can move some stuff out of the way here. And any other questions real quick? I'll go on to the next thing. What I'm going to do next is
keep moving. We got 5 minutes.
Okay. And I'm going to come back tomorrow and do the rest of it. So so the next thing is I want to create a button or a menu, that drop down menu that you saw in the original one. And so that's called a menu or a button or a drop down.
So you're putting this in your first column in your first row now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so again, I'm just going to create another div, and I'm going to give it a class, and the class is what's going to give it its look and feel, and it's called a button group. Okay. And I can make them different sizes, but I'm just going to do the standard button group. And then inside that, I'm going to create a button. Then I'm going to make something where it drops out to the side, which is actually 2 buttons, and it's called like a separated button.
Okay.
Okay. And so that's pretty easy to do. And so I'm just going to say button. And then what I'm going to do here is add in some other classes to it. This is really got a type, which is button. Then it's hard to type on. We'll give it a class, which will give it its look and feel. So it's called the button class. And then this next thing is, I'm going to call it secondary, which gives it that dark gray color. They have like 4 or 5 of these colors, like primary, danger, alert. And it's gray, red, yellow, and green, and blue. You can obviously make your own class here to make it your own color, which a lot of people do. But I'm going to use the built-in Bootstrap colors for now. And so that's my button. And then I'm just going to say pick a location, my title of the button.
This is going to be what's written on the button, right?
Yeah, that's on the button. Okay. And then I'm going to make another button. And this is going to be the drop-down menu portion of it.
Is this why you created a button group, or did you need the button group just for a single button?
Group together, and I really hate it. I'm just like going to just throw up right now. So, because I would have hit what I do is like I hit the N key and then I hit the enter key. Just like it's in my brain. So like, you know, like I'm working on it. I'm trying to get
your shortcuts aren't quite working, are they?
That made it. So I need to make another button because it's in this button group, and it's going to be a type button as well. And this is going to be my drop down menu. Okay. And I do need to put a class on this again.
I think you have a typo in there too on type button.
Oh, I do. Thanks. See, coding is not a spectator sport. And then button. Then BTN. Then I want a button secondary again. So I'm going to make it the same color. I can make it different colors if I wanted, but I don't want to. Then I've got to do some drop downs. This is going to be called drop down toggle.
That's another Bootstrap class.
Yes. All of this is Bootstrap. It's all built into Bootstrap, which makes it really easy to do. And then I'm going to also make it a split, which is another type of thing. And the cool thing about this is like you can literally go to the Bootstrap documentation and copy these out. You don't have to like write this from me. You can probably copy the whole thing. But after you've done it a few million times, you know, you kind of get it.
So Sampa has a question for us here too. It says, can you do function and arguments next time? That's definitely what we're going to do. That's the we're going to get into the meat of it. After we've built out the UI today, we're going to get into the meat of it tomorrow. And David has a question too. While you're doing that as well. Sorry. So do you prefer to define the colors on a web page once and using the then var tag, or do you prefer to define the color every time again?
If I have like this like heavy duty style sheet and we've got multiple pages and all that kind of stuff, I would use a var tag so that when the designer shows that to somebody and then they say, yeah, I like the blue, but I wish it was a little blue gray. You know, as you know, as a designer, you can change it in one spot. So definitely you should do that. Yeah, so you can change them in one spot and your style sheet can do it. So I'm going to copy the rest of this stuff for the rest of this thing. And this is just stuff to make it work. And it's just more how the buttons are set up inside of so this is how it's controlling the expanded false and whether it has popped up true. It just controls how the JavaScript's going to read this. Okay. So we can get on and at least can show the button before we run out of time here because we're out of time right now.
No, we're good.
Yeah.
Somebody's accusing me, MSV, accusing me of wanting to go take lunch. That's not right. That's
yeah, we do actually. So now I've got I want to span. I'm going to do a span class in here, and so let me get in here.
So hey, explain span to me. Why are you using a span?
Span is another control that has no visual element.
Okay.
So just like divs.
Okay.
But you can put classes on it. And so this is the way in the specification for creating button groups inside of Bootstrap. This is the way you do it.
That's how it works. Okay.
So this is their thing. So follow how they do it. I'm sure you could change it up, but like this is so the JavaScript can like pop that thing down and up and down. So it's looking for these things. So it's probably looking for a tag called span with the class SR only on it.
Okay, gotcha.
You know, so it's kind of cool. And then we're going to put in some data in here. And this is the actual definition of what the data is. And it's going to look weird because I made it data driven, okay, from JavaScript. But for today, let me just save that real quick. And then let's run it real quick here, and I can show you how it's working.
And while you're running that, here's a good question.
Yeah, so now we don't have any items in here, but you can see now we've got this button.
Okay. So the part's working when it's in there. Jerry says, to be a good web developer, do you need to have good design skills too? I don't have any design skills at all. Can make a very bland web page and be like, yeah, looks good to me.
So what we tell people inside the Coder Foundry, Jerry, is like get comfortable with templates. Typically, when you're a full stack web developer, they're going to expect you to be able to like do something on the front end. You know, you can't just like ignore that part of this job. And so like if you're going to be a full stack web dev, you've got to be able to make it look reasonably attractive. The one way you can do that is go to something like Theme Forest and download a template and use a template and get used to using templates to make it look good. But you do need layout skills. You need to know that like where should a button go? When do I add a button? You definitely need to know like how to make stuff responsive, that kind of stuff. Very rarely do you have separations concerns among the teams where, you know, but in large companies, that is the case where you may have a design team that's working on everything front end and you're just coding the back end. But I think if you're more well-rounded full stack developer and you can do front and back, I mean, you'll just make more money. So.
And there's a lot of templates available these days, and you only have to tweak them. Available. Tweak them, don't destroy them.
Right. So anyway,
he's asking same time tomorrow.
Same time tomorrow, Betty. Like, yeah. So like, what I'll do tomorrow is we'll lay out one more piece down here. And I'll start right away, and then we're gonna fill this up with JavaScript because if you look at the finished version, these are dynamic events that I'm using to make dynamic, or not dynamic, but dynamic data. So let me get the finished version up here. So like this is data driven, all of these right here. And so I want to, well, I could make LI tags in here and show you like how the button works, but I'm going to actually show you how you'd make a data driven menu system with this as well. So that's typically what you're asked to do. Very rarely are you hard coding these menu drop downs. You're using data to render them. So, and you can see it has an event attached to it that triggers something in JavaScript to re-render this page and do some calculations. And we'll get into all that probably tomorrow. And I think we can finish this up tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'll probably have some more features, like an add feature by tomorrow that we can add our own events in here. You know.
Awesome.
And I think if you're going to put this on your portfolio, Kevin, and we'll close with this, that you should add events to this because all of this could be hard coded, and like a savvy programmer, like, yeah, that doesn't really do anything. It's just hard coded. But the moment they add their own event, like into Charlotte, and add another Charlotte location, and they go up and they see the numbers change, they realize it's being programmed.
Right.
So I think that's an important part of this, is to show kind of what you're that you can actually code.
Yeah. So let's reiterate our challenge too then.
Yeah.
Our challenge is we want people to make something similar to this. We want people to make something that solves the original challenge, which was what again? An array of objects.
Sum and average from values in an array.
Okay. So we want to see what you guys can come up with too.
Yeah.
We want to
now,
see what
you're going to. Mine's a little bit more complicated in that it has an array of objects. So I'm going through the thing where I'm actually summing up a column in an array of objects, but it's really the same thing. It's just a little bit one extra step that you got to do to get out an array of objects. And we'll talk about array of objects, or like what that is and what an array is. And then you also can Google multi-dimensional arrays, which technically don't exist in JavaScript, but it's a search term people use, and it's a common term how they explain what it is. But it's an array of objects is kind of how JavaScript really does.
Okay, cool. But we want to see like your guys' creativity in this too. Like taking that basic challenge. What ideas do you guys have? Like code something up, and maybe we'll have you come on and demo it for us. That would be awesome.
Yeah, we'll look at the one final part of the road here, Tech Rally. Follow him on YouTube. So I taught him something today.
Yeah, sweet, cool. Yeah, we hope everybody learned at least one thing. It's one of these things you may go through something like this and be like, oh, I know that, I know that, and then be like,
I'm talking about. Like when you're trying to make that work with a media career, you end up with, this much of CSS code. It's already built into Bootstrap. Yeah. So like where you're trying to figure out the height of the viewport and all that, So it's kind of cool.
Yep.
So hopefully
let's do this and let's wrap up here. I have a couple things. Like if this is your first time here with us, thank you for joining us. If you've been here before, thank you for joining us again. We definitely appreciate the support. We appreciate all the comments and all the cool stuff you guys do. Thank you for all the likes before the video too, and thank you for them during. That's awesome. If you're interested in Coder Foundry, there's a couple of things you can do. You can go to check out our virtual class. There's a new one coming up July, I think it's the next one.
July 6th.
Yep. July 6th is our next class coming up. Go there, check it out. If you're interested in that, we're not in person at the moment. We are virtual. So as long as you're based in the US, you can attend virtually Coder Foundry, which is super cool. You can also go to, again, if it's your first time here, go to coderfoundry.com/Joe Roadmap. You can sign up for our 5 steps. We've done a bunch of videos on this too, and we talk about this stuff a lot, but it's the 5 steps to breaking in, basically. And we'll send you that information. You can join our mailing list that way too.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
and then what I would say is, I think we've been going live for a couple of weeks here, Kevin. And one thing we noticed, we went back and rewatched our live streams, and it had like 10,000 ads in it. And we want to tell you that that's YouTube doing that. That's not us. So like, I
took out the video ads. Yeah, I took out the video ads on the live stuff, and there shouldn't be any video ads in this stream today either. There may be pop-up ads, but I took out the video ads because they were too intrusive. I watched it back, and I was like, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, they shove them in there.
Yeah, so, like, it was a little too many. I think it's because we go for an hour. I think that's why.
Yes, it's for an hour. Yep. So come back tomorrow at noon, and I think we can finish this up tomorrow complete with JavaScript to give you a good little project and some jumping off points. So like Superdog events part 2 will be tomorrow on Friday. And then we do have some guests coming in next week. We'll announce those as we get them solidified, but some pretty cool guests coming in next week, Kevin, aren't they?
We do. I'm looking forward to the guy that's worked at a lot of different companies, including Facebook and some other places too, which is super cool.
Yeah, exactly. Super cool. Just another, and he can talk about his journey, how he broke in, and he's working in the biggest of the big at Silicon Valley. So which I think is pretty interesting. So we'll talk to him next week and get him solidified in. So
awesome.
And if you like us coding live, feel free to give Kevin, reach out to Kevin, tell him you liked it, and we'll keep doing it. we can do more of these challenges with you guys if you like doing them. And then if you make this challenge and it's cool, we'll put it on the channel and we'll bring you on and you can talk about it. But try home.
Maybe you'll even get a rubber duck.
Yeah, you may even get a rubber duck. Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. So let's go eat lunch.
Yes, let's roll. Thank you all. We appreciate it. We'll see you tomorrow.
Keep cutting, guys.